What's up, everyone? Vince Nero here from BuzzStream. Today, I wanted to talk about some big news from Google. They've announced their new helpful content algorithm update. Google might start to sound like a broken record at this point, but what they're doing is really doubling down on this helpful content piece of their algorithm, this helpful content system for evaluating sites. And this new update is huge. It sounds like it's going to impact about 40% of what you see on the web right now. So that's a lot of unhelpful content out there. So let's talk about what this means for link builders. I started my career and right around when Google Penguin and Panda algorithms came out. I feel like this algorithm shift here is along the same lines, and it's going to be just as powerful. If you're new to helpful content, the helpful content system was actually announced back in August. And essentially what it's doing is trying to really hone in on some key features that make content helpful and really push out that mass produced unsupervised content that it's coming out that we're seeing from AI and seeing from brands that are just trying to game the system and trying to create things that are just for search but not for users. And that's the key message here from Google is they want brands to start creating things that are meant for users and not just for search. They have a great list of documentation and a checklist, a self-evaluation, they call it self-assessment questions you can ask yourself. And it's things like, is this content created just for search? Is this content something that could live in an encyclopedia or a dictionary? Is this content bookmark worthy? Does the person writing have actual experience in the topic that they're talking about versus just hiring a freelance writer? They don't say that, but that's the kind of implication I think we're taking from this kind of stuff. So what does this mean for link builders? Well, I think it has about 5 really key takeaways for what you need to start doing with your strategies going forward. So let's get into that. Number 1, links matter more than ever. Now, it's really tough for Google to get away from links as a ranking signal as much as they probably want to at this point because there is so much noise. It's something that Brian Dean has echoed a few times on our podcast as well. But I think the shift here that's happening when you're talking about links that matter is quality relevant links really matter. So when you're building links, those are the 2 things you really have to start thinking about evaluating. And it's not just DA or DR, domain authority, domain rating, site traffic that are key indicators that a site is helpful anymore. In the first few months of this new algorithm shift, I feel like there's going to be a lot of sites that are high DA, high DR, have a lot of traffic that are actually getting hit by this helpful content system. I think you're going to really have to focus on evaluating it yourself. So let's get into number 2 here is link builders need to evaluate a page manually for helpful content. So what can you do? Google has provided some really great documentation. And what I've done is taken that documentation, thrown it into ChatGPT to create a nice scoring system for content. I'm sure there's going to be brands that will do this and tools that will do this. But for the time being, I'm going to share my GPT with you. And essentially, you can copy and paste a piece of content that you've written, or maybe a piece of content that you want to get a link from, or your link exists on, and it will tell you how helpful this content is. So if you have a link in there, obviously you want to look at things like relevancy. Is the link relevant? Is the page itself relevant to your brand? Tip 3 is don't stop building links. Just because this helpful content system has come, I think it's probably even more important to start building links that are super relevant and quality from sites that provide helpful content. So there may be some evaluation period and some kind of auditing that you might want to do when you're thinking about your strategies and workflow for building links, be it maybe you're buying links, maybe you're working with an agency, maybe you're creating great content that generates links on the merits of the content on its own. But I think it's even more important to start building links now and get ahead of your competitors. Tip 4 here is to start building content with passive links in mind. Now, if you're not already doing this, the idea behind passive link building is to create content with high link intent. You can use search volume to identify keywords that people are searching for, and there's certain types that have high link intent. are things like definitional queries, statistics, trends. Statistics is probably the most obvious version of this, where if a journalist was doing a post about car insurance and they wanted some car insurance statistics to kind of back up and bolster their argument, they would do a search like car insurance statistic. So put yourself in the mindset of a journalist and researcher and start to try to identify keywords that have high link intent. Remember, when you're building content, think of it with that helpful content system in mind. You want to make sure your content is not only targeting a keyword with high link intent that can build passive links, but it's also super helpful. So it has that staying power. Tip 5 here is to focus on sustainable strategies, not shortcuts. It can be really easy to go on a marketplace like Fiverr and see that you can buy 10 links for $100, but really, are these going to be quality links? Probably not. Google's also introduced a handful of new anti-spam policies here that I should touch on in terms of link building strategies. One of them is expired domain abuse. The idea is buying an expired domain to host a bunch of low quality content. You can't just ride the coattails of previous reputation of a site and produce a bunch of low quality content, AI generated or otherwise. Now, they don't specifically say AI generated content is bad in this, but what they do say is the scaled content approach. You have to be very careful about how you do it, specifically creating content with low oversight. So I'm sure you've seen these LinkedIn posts where people are just taking AI content and publishing 1,000 posts, 10,000 posts in a couple minutes on a site and just seeing the rankings climb up or the organic traffic climb up. That's something that they're trying to combat against. And if you have a bunch of freelancers that are spitting out a bunch of content just for content's sake, that's not going to fly either. What we're seeing here is Google really trying to move the needle on eliminating spam. We're seeing this in Google's anti-spam email requirements, which I've talked about in the past as well, which I can link to here. And we're also seeing it now with the content itself. So what this is all pushing and pointing towards is creating great content going to generate high quality, relevant links. And a lot of that comes from strategies like digital PR. A lot of that comes from strategies like creating content-led campaigns or reactive campaigns where you're really pushing something that can drive value and is relevant and can generate links. I think you're going to start to see some of these older link building tactics start to wane and start to be less effective. And the link builders that are going to have success are the ones that are going to really figure out how to create that helpful content and how to generate links from sites that create helpful content. So good luck out there. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments. If you like what you see, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks for watching.